It is nearly impossible to talk about Alan Wake 2, either completely or succinctly, and definitely not both. It's such a sprawling labor of love that describing any one detail will inevitably lead down a rabbit hole of supporting facts and contexts, and the more you try to describe, the harder it is to arrange the information in any semblance of an overarching framework. The story truly is a monster. It is many things: a postmodern detective story, a meta-narrative infused transmedia masterwork, a thematic exploration of Jungian psychology, and a love letter tying together the collected works of Remedy Entertainment Studios. All of these descriptors are accurate, yet can only capture a shadow of the tactile and emotional experience of playing the game. Its dimensions, topologies, and textures are flattened, and so much is lost. And yet, despite the difficulty, I constantly feel a pull to discuss this game with my friends, family, and now YouTube. It struck me so deeply in a way that few pieces of art have before. Perhaps it's because of this contrast between inscrutability and emotional resonance that I think about Alan Wake 2 practically every day, sometimes twice or more. I listen to the songs featured throughout the game, I think about Bright Falls and the people who live there, and I spiral asking myself, how does Tom the filmmaker fit into the lore? It's a singular triumph and artistic experience that I cannot escape from. It's my game of the year for 2023 by a mile, and one of my favorite games that I've ever played. And of all the cycles that I go through in my head regarding Alan Wake 2, one question has risen above them all. Why is my horror game so damn funny? When talking about humor in Alan Wake 2, I find there are two obvious places to start. The first, we'll get to later. The second is the colorful cast of characters, specifically the Koskelas brothers.
Hello, Jaakko. Who is this incredibly attractive martial arts master? Oh no, a bear. Soak in some local history at the Huotari Well, where two serial killers once hid the disemboweled bodies of their murder victims. Oh shit, this coffee is shit. At Koskelas Brothers Adventure Tours, we say, fuck the government. I'm very busy wearing a turtleneck and drinking wine like an asshole. Just don't share your coffee with the goats. Seriously, stop feeding our goats coffee.
These Koskelas TV ads are what inspired me to make this video in the first place. They do a great job showing the dynamic between the two brothers in a funny way. Pairing the over-exuberant salesman and his soft-spoken foil is a tried-and-true comedic setup, and I find the humor mined from these two acting out Ilmo's wacky ideas to be quite earnest and tender. The contrast between the two brothers at the heart of the comedy simultaneously displays the care overflowing from their relationship. You get the sense that Ilmo is putting so much energy into these ads, not just for the audience, but to share his excitement and passion with Jaakko. And despite Jaakko's more laconic affect, you can feel that he's doing this to support his brother. Then the magic comes in the moments when all of Ilmo's contrived setups, cardboard sets, and cartoonish acting pierce Jaakko's otherwise stoic demeanor, and he cracks a smile. It's heartwarming to watch. This aspect of their relationship is spelled out textually too, but only after,
I'm gonna fucking destroy you!
Jaakko was all heart. He always went along with my ideas, no matter how stupid they were, always happy to help. I got carried away. I never think things through.
When you finally access the watery lighthouse, you find the mother stash for the Cult of the Tree. In addition to the treasure trove of resources, this room includes Ilmo's most out-there idea, plans to turn the lighthouse into a mega beam to kill any hypothetical shadow kaiju emerging from the lake. And near all of Ilmo's gear and dreams is a note.
Ilmo Koskela jolted awake from a nightmare. He was drenched in sweat. In the dream, he'd been covered in blood, gleefully murdering people, his friends. When his twin brother had tried to talk sense into him, he had murdered Yako as well. Ilmo slammed his fist into his temple so hard it hurt. The dream made him feel sick. The dark force of the lake was growing stronger. It was trying to make Ilmo and Yako something they were not. Trying to turn them into Ilmari and Yakopi Huatari from the early days of Watery. But they were the Koskela brothers.
You were the better Koskela. Much better than me.
Yako's death is quickly followed by a boss fight, so the somberness only has a few seconds to sit in the moment. However, talking with Ilmo after Scratch is dispatched, and riding this tragic tale to Watery let you sit in the sorrow, while retroactively confirming the warmth of the ads. A warmth that is now gone forever. But there is still one more Koskela ad to find in the game. Scratch has begun his eternal Deerfest, flowing out of Bright Falls and seeping into the rest of reality. When Alan eventually returns to this new dark place, the Oh Dear Diner features the Koskela Brothers Book Club. A whole video essay could be made analyzing this short chapter, or even this 2-minute ad, but the moment that really broke me was when a masked Ilmo, completely taken in with all the physical properties of the book turned to the shadowy void of his brother and asks him,
I'll give it a perfect score of 5 Alma beers out of 5. How about you? There you have it.
Here, we see how Alan Wake 2 uses comedy to pull you in and get you invested, and in turn, the comedy supports the other emotional goals the game has for its player. You start laughing at Ilmo and Yako's antics, sure, but you invest in them as you watch. You start to look for the ads. You see the characters behind the acting. After Yako is killed, the last book club continues showing you the same absurdist humor as before, but the warmth, care, and creativity that the other ads are infused with has been replaced with a bitterness. The dark place is now laughing at you. The loss of Yako and the morbidity of the whole charade is drawn in sharp contrast through the same absurdist comedy that made you care about the brothers in the first place. This tactic of using comedy to draw you into sadness or epicness or horror is present throughout the game. The undeniably Remedy brand of charming absurdism is an invitation. How could the player not accept, even if they know it will end up hurting them? A more complex version of this comedic support can be seen in the second musical moment of the game, the
Dark Ocean Summoning.
But before we discuss that, I first need to talk about the old gods of Asgard. We first see the Anderson brothers in Return 3, Local Girl. They're drinking moonshine at the Watery Lighthouse trailer park. The short encounter has a lot going on.
It's in the rain. Must not drink the water or take a bath ever again. Moonshine. Only drink the moonshine, brother.
From early signs of Tor's corruption by Cynthia Weaver, to the revelation that Saga is related to the pair. However, the biggest thing to note here is that these two geezers are odd and chaotic and funny, in effect in sharp contrast to the rest of the story's tone thus far. There are funny moments in odd duos like the Koskelas, but those moments strike in the context of their TV ads, not their normal behavior. We actually meet the Koskelas in-game shortly before getting to the trailer park, and they're much more restrained in person. Meanwhile, the Andersons are batshit crazy, drinking dark lake water distilled moonshine and raving about their roles as Norse gods. There's levels to this. The pure wackiness of the brothers in this appearance, combined with their urging to
Don't be part of the story. Make the story.
set up the natural tone of their movements against the normal dreariness of the horror story they found themselves in. They're a respite from the spooks. This characterization sticks with the Andersons as we reach Return 5, Old Gods. Alan has been taken into custody by FBC agents storming the scene and taking the case into their control. Ilmo is revealed as a member of the Cult of the Tree, Saga is left alone in the ochre-dappled woods outside Valhalla, with these two weirdos as her only hope. This chapter acts as a great study for how Alan Wake 2 uses its humor to support other emotions as well. This time, the emotion being supported is fear. Alan Wake 2 is nominally a horror game, and Old Gods is the chapter that brings the most spooks. I don't think that's a rare opinion either. This chapter starts out unsettling, slowly building tension as the folks in the nursing home seem too cheery. Plus, something happened to Tor. You got a phone call on your way to the home, and he wanted to talk before getting distracted in a very Tor way.
Saga, it's Tor, your grandfather. About time you were coming to visit, kiddo.
How did you know I was coming to see you?
Never mind that. We have bigger problems. We're losing. Oh, fuck. Fuck you fucking hag. Fuck.
Shit.
Something's happened to him, but it takes a bit to piece together why everyone is being so odd. You find Tor's room full of carnage and blood. He's gone. Odin is in a fitful slumber, calling your name, and unresponsive to any communication outside of the Andersons' paranatural powers. There are still flashes of the oddball characterization that made their Return 3 appearance so comedic, but they're denuded by a visceral frailness. Tor in his Cynthia-altered state, and Odin in his unconsciousness. It's also in this chapter that we learn about the death of Fat Bob, the lead guitar of the Old Gods. This chapter is all about taking the folks who resist the darkness with their wacky antics and sweet tunes and dragging them down, showing the ruin that Scratch's story has made of Saga's forebearers. And if they're brought low like this, what chance can Saga have? This tone setter, followed by the seeming abandonment of the nursing home as the dark descends, does much of the legwork that makes the wellness center and beyond as spooky as they are. And most importantly, it shows the fading light of the Old Gods of Asgard. Their silly antics are a thing of the past, now dragged down into the pain and suffering through the power of the Dark Place. But they're not done fighting yet. Back to the shores of Cauldron Lake and the Summoning. This is the flashiest, most difficult combat encounter in the game, and the climax of gameplay. For about 5 minutes, you dodge, flash, and shoot waves of Taken, scored by the resurrected Old Gods of Asgard, playing one more show in the land of the living. The build-up to this moment is crucial to its power as a set piece, and as a climax to the story. It follows just past Saga's point of no return. The loops and spirals of this horror story have reached critical mass, with all the threads building through the preceding 6 to 14 chapters tying together. Saga, Casey, Estevez, and the Old Gods of Asgard all make their way to Cauldron Lake, and each arrival hits a different emotional note. We start with Saga, driving the same road where we met her and Casey at the beginning of the game. Then, they were heading deeper into unknown, terrifying depths. Now, she's going to save her family. Her calls to her husband finally get through, and we see that the story's new reality has already spread far enough to infect him. David answers the phone bitterly, blaming Saga for Logan's drowning. This is the lowest point for Saga throughout the entire game. Her worst fears have been realized despite her best efforts. Logan is dead, David is gone. As players, we're never brought in to really invest in Logan beyond a few voice lines, but we don't need to. We've invested in Saga, and you really feel Saga's despair as she fully loses control of this situation. Saga squeals to a halt in the wet plant litter of the Cauldron Lake campground parking lot. The first viewpoint down the trail shows us the yawning span of this portal to the Dark Place. Moonlight falls through a clear night to rest upon pines and waves alike. The roar of a chopper approaches from behind, and Saga is blinded by light filtering through the needles above her. Casey and Estevez are here. While shorter than the other arrivals, and likely the least impactful by itself, this still did a great job of hyping me up as I first arrived back at Cauldron Lake. We've seen this overlook multiple times throughout the day, but seeing it bathed in the blacks and blues of a full moon night, pierced by the convergence of all our friends, helped distinguish this as the last time we'd come to the shores of Cauldron Lake. An epic summoning awaited us at the shore. After Saga's sorrow and Estevez's excitement, we finally get to humor, courtesy of the Old Gods of Asgard. We heard from Tor and Odin the entire way through this area, as they swerve the Valhalla nursing home bus through the damp gnarl towards the lake's shore.
That must be Tor and Odin. Maybe I should check in.
Kiddo! We're almost at the gig! And Odin's run over 4 minions of darkness! The bus is our hammer! I'm driving with one hand!
I need you to meet me at the shore. Is the song ready?
Almost! Odin's got a killer chorus! Row, tree, tree! What tree? There's no tree in the sun. Who the fuck puts a tree in the middle of the road? We're not on a road.
Drive carefully, Grandpa.
At first blush, it would seem this humor would undercut the dramatic stakes of the build, but I think it's actually doing three distinct things to elevate the summoning itself and make it feel as special as it does. 1. It builds up the emotional energy and stakes going into the fight. 2. It demonstrates the Anderson brothers' resistance to the story's tone, providing hope that Saga can fight back as well. 3. Highlights the old in Old Gods of Asgard. The summoning pulls together so many aspects of the game into one brilliant moment, so the emotional resonance must also be pulled together from the other elements of the game. Saga brings the darkness of the brewing horror story with her tragedy. Estevez and Casey bring the excitement, looking forward to the chunky combat and heavy weapons. And the old gods bring up the rear, pulling the downright odd parts of Remedy's world into this soup. It wouldn't be complete without them. The presence of this renewed energy and humor bursting from the old gods also gives hope. Counter to the dimmed yet humorous presence of the Anderson brothers, dripping with the pains of aging in Return 5. This verve is hopeful. It shows that with Saga's help, they were able to resist the darkness, and are helping her in turn. There's a chance that we can fight back and win together. Anything is possible. Chimes are rock and roll if you know how to use them. But still, all of this is tinged with the age of the brothers. They're driving crazily and somewhat confused through all that energy and vigor. This delicate balance of the slow breakdown of the old gods as they age is most poignant right before the song can begin. Odin addresses the night.
Hello, Cauldron Lake! Great to see so many federal agents here tonight. Prepare to experience a soul-searing, mind-frying act of black magic and sorcery! This song goes out to our favorite tortured writer. Let these sweet tunes guide you out of the darkness. It's called Dark Ocean Summoning. You're making me look bad in front of Saga, bro. Let's try that again.
This moment might appear on the surface to be one of bathos, a moment of anticlimax brought on by a sudden switch of mood to trivial or ridiculous. But I think that it's a far more earnest expression of the diminished state of the Anderson brothers. Odin laughs it off, knowing they're too old for this shit, and it's funny. But ultimately, it creates this deep breath before the plunge, a moment to see Tord and Odin for what they are. Powerful and weird, funny and re-energized, but ultimately old, broken, and missing their bandmate, whose guitar Odin now wields. Then, the music starts. The lake swirls and an image is cast above the bus in the moonlight. The old gods of Asgard in full glory as poets of the fall. All three playing together and crying out into the dark depths as one.
A whole lot of paranatural crimes happening right now. It's fucking awesome. I want a t-shirt.
Show's drawing a crowd.
Take an incoming, Anderson. Anderson, trouble on the way. I got him for you, Anderson.
Finally, we get to...
What the hell?
This section of the game is near and dear to my heart, and oddly enough, may have been many players' entry point to all things Alan Wake 2 after the performance at the Game Awards. Apparently, Sam Lake, creative director of Remedy, had to fight to keep this section in the game, and I see why. It clashes tonally with the rest of the story, not much really happens, and you're running around a soundstage for about 15 to 30 minutes, depending on how fast you fight or solve puzzles. But at the same time, it is everything it needs to. It recaps Alan Wake 1 for those who haven't played or haven't played in a while. It creates a fun soundscape and pulls you into Alan's world. and it's a shock that resets all expectations for the Dark Place. I would definitely say that this whole endeavor is funny, but I think it would be better classified as absurd. It's just weird, a departure from everything the game has been setting up thus far, story-wise and tonally. There's a wonderful video by Fat Brett that discusses the fears portrayed in Alan Wake 2, and they highlight the absurdity of Herald of Darkness at the core of Alan's torment in the Dark Place. It represents his loss of agency. Just before he starts writing Return 4, what becomes We Sing, he proudly proclaims that he knows how this works. He can control a Dark Place this time. He can't. In this way, the comedy of the absurd is tinged, even subconsciously, with a bit of that fear of helplessness. No matter how good a time you're having in the clown car, it's going wherever it wants and you're just along for the ride. Beyond this too, the general absurdity of the looping geometries and dancing shadows puts you where Alan is, lost, tormented by his past, and yet drawn in by the story. Plus, it just makes me happy seeing Sam Lake dance. All of these examples take humor and get more out of the emotion. Be it sorrow, excitement, fear, or confusion, the humor supports the art through an earnest display of Remedy's devotion to the craft, their characters, and their stories. And yes, there are some bits of absurdity that come out of nowhere and don't really pay off emotionally, but I'd argue that they actually support the generally unsettling vibe of Bright Falls. To an outsider, like both protagonist and player are, this small community is quite strange. Dark tales haunt the forest. History around Cauldron Lake has become myth, and in turn that myth seeps into reality through the dark power roiling in the ocean below. Overall, it's this commitment to the absurd, the weird, the funny, and then playing it straight to support deeper feelings that I love about Remedy. I'm a die-hard fan now, even though I haven't even played the majority of their games. I'm excited to try FBC Firebreak when I have time, I can't wait for Control 2, and I'm excited to recapture the magic in the Max Payne remake. I want to support Remedy in their future endeavors, and if you've been touched by any of their games like I've been, I hope you're right there in line with me.